Hello my friends, we're in 2024 and that means it's been exactly 20 years since the best year in PC gaming history, the legendary 2004. I'm not going to show all games that came out in 2004, obviously. I'm just going to show some of them. Good games that I have played quite a lot, but also games that are recognized by the community as either good games or representative of their category, or games that have gained the status of classics. A contender for the best game of all time, World of Warcraft was developed by Blizzard, is the most popular MMORPG of all time, and a game that revolutionized this niche when it was released back in 2004. It basically put MMOs in everyone's hands, from hardcore players to casuals who have never played an MMO in their lives. Choose your faction, either the powerful and noble Horde or the Alliance, and from the moment you pushed that Enter World button, nothing was going to be the same. You are teleported into Azeroth, a gorgeous and huge world with 2 continents, and with gameplay smoother than a toad, this game will capture your imagination like nothing else before. World of Warcraft has always been and always will be more than just a game. It destroyed barriers, changed culture, reached everywhere, in our homes, on TV, in Hollywood. I bought World of Warcraft when I was in college, during the Burning Crusade. I spent a week's worth of money to get the game. It doesn't matter that afterwards I ate only kubeti and instant soup, as long as I could walk with my warlock under the moonlight rays through barrens. Nothing else mattered. Underground 2 is Underground 1, only that it's open world, bigger and sometimes better. You have more cars, more customization options, many more options, and more races. You even have SUVs, and you won't find many lists of top X racing games that don't contain Underground 2, a true classic. But the game has no police. Why, I don't know. I mean, illegal car racing at night, it's the perfect setting to add law enforcement people that enforce the law. I think the game would have been 2 times better if it had this element. Just look at Most Wanted. The Bayview City we are in is a real show of lights, neons and colors of all kinds. Add to these neons and colors from the cars and we have a visual delight. The legendary Maxis created The Sims, and Electronic Arts sold 175 million copies of these games, meaning The Sims 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1,000 expansion packs. Here we have The Sims 2, the best game in the Sims series, one of the best simulation games and one of the best PC games ever made. The game is simple, you create a few characters, you build or buy a house, you furnish it, of course, and you start living the lives of those characters, those Sims. The customization in this game is extremely varied, both for the characters and for the house you stay in. After all, if you try, you can make some pretty interesting characters, like this one. That's exactly what I look like. For clothing you have several categories: casual, elegant, pajamas, underwear. I moved to my new house and I still have a few simoleons, Sims money, with which to buy the usual stuff: table, chair, refrigerator, bed, bookcase. I played this game a lot, maybe too much. I loved making money. The coolest thing was to become a scientist. From time to time you did experiments and you got to choose between 2 situations, which wire to cut, blue or red. And if you choose the right wire, you got a lot of money. If not, the neighborhood exploded. Boom. Those of you who have seen the video about top 10 favorite games know that Rome Total War is high in that list. Those of you who haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? Total War is a legendary series that began with Shogun Total War in 2000, continued with Medieval Total War in 2002, and exploded with Rome Total War in 2004, where we are now. The recipe for Rome's success is simple. You have 2 game modes, the big campaign map that is turn-based, where you build, conquer, gather resources, do politics and diplomacy, and the combat map, which is full 3D, real time with pause, of course. Add to that ancient times and all the powerful, interesting and very different factions you can play with, and then the icing on the cake, battles on a scale hitherto undreamt of. Rome Total War is a big game, both literally and figuratively, with thousands of units on the battlefield that will demand a lot of brain activity to destroy your opponent's army. Well, the game doesn't have the most brilliant AI, and once you get a grip on it, you'll start looking for exploits here and there to gain a dishonest advantage. But war never changes, or as Sun Tzu said, in war numbers alone comfort no advantage. Do not advance relying on sheer military power. You tell them, General. Knights of the Old Republic 2 must be in top Star Wars games and in top role-playing games, because Obsidian has taken BioWare's recipe for success, the original creators of Knights of the Old Republic 1, and perfected it, as always, resulting in a game that's bigger, more ambitious, deeper, more complex, and better in many ways than its predecessor. The story in KOTOR 2 is not as simple as in the first game, because Obsidian preferred not to go 100% with the good side bad side cliches, but went towards a grey area, an area that overlaps too well with real life, where not always the best choices are the most correct ones. A grey area that often lets you deviate from the Jedi path or the Jedi code, and just like Qui-Gon Jinn after you can be a Jedi who lives on the edge of morality as understood by the Jedi. Of course, your actions and the lines of dialogue you choose reverberate across the galaxy, with the game having 7 possible endings. But KOTOR 2 has its share of problems. The first problem is pathfinding. Simply both you and your companions will get stuck on anything basically, any corner, any pebble, and to turn the camera will take 5 seconds. The second problem is the companions' AI. They don't know what they are doing, it's like being lobotomized, they always need input from the player. The third problem is combat. It's rigid and it works according to some rules derived from the 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons. That means you need to give it some time until things make sense. I've played KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 on a GeForce 2 MX. The game was running badly, but I really didn't care. I was intrigued by the story, the atmosphere, and the Star Wars universe, which was different enough from the movies to be something new, but similar enough to be familiar. You really did a great job, guys.
On the job, no one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have.
Of all the lists of the best games of all time, Half-Life 2 will be there 50% of the time, probably. Half-Life 1 was one of the best games of the 90s, and the hype for Half-Life 2 was so great that if it hadn't been a near perfect game, it would have never satisfied the eager, curious and angry crowd. Why does it take so long to make a sequel? Half-Life 3, am I a joke to you? Yeah, we'll be hearing from you in 20 years from now. But Half-Life 2 was almost perfect, from the narrative combined with tight gameplay, to the captivating story, to the innovative level design that's imbued with environment interactivity, to the absolutely impressive physics of the time. The game had it all. Let's talk about graphics and visuals. The graphics are visual, and although I can't put my finger on something specific that makes Half-Life 2 special from this point of view, like the next game after this, somehow I always thought about two things. Very different levels in terms of visuals and atmosphere, and realism combined with a fine polish of textures and objects, over which we add a good and decent lighting that does not explode in your face. And here are the graphics. Out of all the lists of the best games of all time, Doom 3 will be there 0% of the time. However, this does not mean that Doom 3 is a bad game. Far from it, but yeah, it was not so well received in 2004, because it was not a pure Doom game. Doom 3 differs a lot from the first games in the series. It's slower, it focuses more on scary elements. I can call them horror elements. This is not a bad game. On the contrary, from my point of view, Doom 3 is really good. Let me explain please, the 3 points that make Doom 3 a classic. Atmosphere, strange combat and visual style. Not graphics, visual style. I said not graphics because although Doom 3 was impressive from a graphical point of view, yet the graphics did not age so well. That's because the textures were low resolution, 256 by 256 pixels, a resolution found in Quake 3's engine. Yikes. So, visuals, straight to the point, darkness, shadows, metallic textures. Almost everywhere you go in Doom 3 is going to look gorgeous. You feel immersed, your eyeballs are going to bounce around to the next cool stuff. The atmosphere, shadows, screams, diabolical laughter, flashlight. You don't have a flashlight on your gun. The levels are pitch black and if you want to see something, you put your gun down and take out the flashlight. The enemy comes up to you, you literally hit them with the flashlight. The shooter part is not fast paced and it's quite simple, but the variety of enemies helps with the combat variety, especially since you are often taken by surprise. The door opens, you wake up with a shotgun from Z-Sec zombie in your face, you mind your business, an imp falls on your back, you run and bam, fat zombie behind the wall. This is Doom 3, with goods and bads, but more good than bad. It's a classic, at least that's how I look at it. Thanks, John. Oh, I forgot something. Doom 3 was destroying our computers, whatever we had. I played on a GeForce 2 MX, the game had 10 freezes per minute. Those were really the days. I remember even now when I fell off the chair, it was dark in the room, headphones on, and the game froze, image, sound, everything. After a few seconds, it worked again, and an enemy was punching me in the face. The sound suddenly started to yell at me. Next second, it was just me and gravity. Our favorite tropical place of the 2000s is Far Cry, a game developed by Crytek that captured our imagination with gorgeous graphics and interesting gameplay. You could use a glider, drive cars, boats, the game was almost open world, you could tackle objectives in several ways. Beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, the CryEngine graphics were extremely advanced for 2004. You only have to look at the draw distance, at the water that looks absolutely gorgeous. It also had good physics, and then the vegetation, a lot of foliage and trees that simply look good, just take a look. The only problem with the graphics in this game are the low resolution textures when you look from a distance. But yeah, it's 2004, Oblivion didn't fix that, and it was released in 2006. Although a demanding game, you could use minimum settings and play on anything. I played it on a GeForce 2 MX, it worked much better than Doom 3 anyway. Far Cry was published by Ubisoft and sold quite well, 2.5 million units, but after Far Cry followed other games, Far Cry 2, 3, 4, Primal, 5, New Dawn, 6, for a total number of 50 millions. Not bad. Some of them were very good, some not really, but they all started here, March of 2004. There is no shortage of games from the Star Wars universe. We have any type of game you want on absolutely any possible console. But there is no shortage of good Star Wars games either. And it just so happens that one of these games is Battlefront. I can't tell you the hours wasted on LAN session with this game. Whether it was me and a good friend, or me with my brother, or me alone, it doesn't matter. We played until we couldn't anymore, and then we moved on to Quake 3, but this for another time. The game is simple, but you can play it for a lifetime. There are 3 game modes. 2 historical campaigns in which you are taken through the movies chronologically, from episode 1 to episode 6, on well-known planets such as Tatooine, Naboo, Hoth, Bespin, but also lesser-known ones such as Renvar or Yavin 4. Galactic Conquest, in which you have to conquer planets until you become the master of the galaxy. With each conquered planet you get some bonuses. And Instant Action, where you simply choose a map and fight. The battles are the same regardless of the game mode. You enter the map, you choose your faction between the 4 factions, Republic, Confederation, Rebels or Empire. You choose one of 5 different classes, each with its specialization and weaponry, and you are thrown on the map, you along with 200 plus allied soldiers and 200 plus enemies. You can shoot guns, you can throw grenades, you can place mines, you can climb into various vehicles or even fly with TIE fighters or X-Wings. You can even ride those furry ostriches on Hoth. The game is very good in single player, but multiplayer is the icing on the cake. On the same map there can be a number of 64 players. Yes, 64 people, either through LAN or even online. I don't even mention the music. It's Star Wars, it's sublime, but I can't put it on because copyright. A good strategy game in the Lord of the Rings universe? It's clearly something worth playing. It didn't make any waves, it didn't break records, but it was commercially successful. It was created and published by EA and has sold 1 million units. There are enough games from EA in this list from 2004, just saying. Just like in Battlefront's case, Battle for Middle-earth lets you recreate legendary battles from Lord of the Rings. Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith, Isengard. Amazing! The nostalgia and geekiness levels are off the charts. Unreal Tournament was the playground where Epic could flex their muscles and show us their new engines. And every once in a while a game from those versions was good, i.e. 2 games, 99 and 2004. Unreal Tournament 2004 was created using Unreal Engine 2.5, engine used for games such as Bioshock, Bioshock 2, Pariah, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, Warpath. It's an arena shooter, choose your game mode, map and proceed to battle. Be it at home with the boys or at the internet cafe, it doesn't matter. War is war, we must shoot for the stars. Variety is the right word to describe this game. Variety in game mods, 11 game mods, then the maps, many and varied. There are 121 maps in the entire game. And their variation is amazing, from lava to ice to space to whatever you want. Quake 3 is my favorite arena shooter, but the maps in Unreal Tournament are epic. That's a sad reference to the fact that the game is made by Epic.
I hope you have...
Peter Molyneux brought us games like Populous, Dungeon Keeper and Black and White, the so-called God games, where you looked down on the poor NPCs below, having the power to control their destinies. But in Fable, Peter puts us in the flip-flops of the hero of Oakville. Literally, look at what this lad is wearing. A boy preoccupied with his sister's birthday and hitting chickens? Well, you're here in this wonderful village with this soothing music, cheerful graphics and cartoonish visuals, and too much bloom, the plague of mid-2000s games. After the village is destroyed and he survives, obviously, our lad embarks on an heroic journey to discover himself, becoming a hero with butterflies over his head, literally, or an anti-hero with flies all around. I'll stop here. The game is so epic that it deserves a separate review. Stay tuned. The most overlooked shooter of 2004, Painkiller can be described as what happens when Hexen has a child with Serious Sam, a child who stole the weapons from Unreal Tournament. The game is mindless fun, with hordes of unclean monsters rushing towards you, in varied and interesting locations, from cemeteries to construction sites with giant cranes to Venice, culminating in a huge battlefield where you battle a Balrog. The gameplay is satisfying, especially with those weapons you have, the humble shotgun that scatters and throws monsters, this thing I don't know, electro driver, minigun and others, and just like in Unreal, weapons have two types of projectiles, left click shoots something, right click something else, gorgeous. Painkiller doesn't need story or other shenanigans, it's just a shooter where you take weapons and ammunition to kill monsters. Move on, then kill more monsters. I recommend this game to anyone who wants a shooter like in the good old days. A real-time strategy game that I've played 20 years ago. I forgot everything about it. What I do know now is that I thought Warhammer was a clone of Warcraft. But no, Warcraft came out in 1994, this in 2004, only to find out to my utterly amazement that the Warhammer universe actually came out in 1983. This ruined my childhood. But this is a good game, or so I'm told, and if you want to see a very good review about it, I recommend Josh Strife's review, you have the video in the description. I hope I don't forget, please remind me if I do, thanks. And now other games I didn't feel like talking about or didn't play. Thank you.
unfortunate that the affair that gathers us together tonight is a troubling one. We are here because the laws that bind our society, the laws that are the fabric of our existence,